Hi, welcome to Podlygamists, the Sisterwives rewatch podcast.
Sisterwives is a reality show centered on a Mormon polygamist family originating in Lehi, Utah. Over 12 years and 16 seasons, TLC's longest-running reality show tells the story of Kody Brown and his 4 wives, Mary, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn, and their journey as spouses and parents living plural marriage in the public eye. As superfans, we have watched the family as they grow and overcome challenges, endure numerous moves, face loss, and celebrate all the moments in between. We love the Brown family, and fresh off some major changes following season 16, we decided to go back to the beginning and embark on the ultimate rewatch so that we could see the early days with fresh eyes and try to draw connections between the Brown family of 2010 and where we are today. I'm Samantha Kaiser.
And I'm Haley Graff.
And this is Podlygamists, Season 1, Episode 4.
Welcome back to another episode of Podlygamists.
Yes.
I'm just getting the episode description pulled up. Because this was a pretty light, I feel like overall, like if the Browns haven't won you over as far as believing that they're like a functioning, loving family, I think this episode kind of is like where you start to buy into it. Like, I'm not saying I don't buy into it. I do, obviously.
But if you were a new viewer.
For a hater, I feel like this kind of like could give you the, like, make you believe that they're like in it for the right reasons in a lot of ways and really believe in it wholeheartedly, and a lot of the things about it are very nice and sweet.
I know there are a few moments in this one where I like they were tearing up and stuff because for the viewer, I mean, Truly is born this episode, we know. So it was just, there were a lot of sweet emotional moments captured that I think would endear you to the family a lot. But that's mine.
I agree. So this is season 1, episode 4. These titles. Third Wife in Labor is the title.
They're so creative with their titles.
Get right down to it. They do.
This tells you exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm. This aired on October 10th in 2010, so it's actually 10-10-10.
Oh.
Which is funny because we get into like some obsession with the date in the episode too. So
that's a nice callback there.
And then the TLC wrote, Kody's fiancée Robyn helps out with the kids while Kody and his pregnant third wife Christine go to the hospital. A week overdue, they must make an important decision on whether or not to induce labor. So that's a pretty like a bunch of nothing is what they're saying, and that's kind of what it is, except for like obviously the big main thing that Truly is born. But like there's not a lot of other stuff going on.
That's basically the event of the episode. That's what happens.
Yep.
There isn't a lot of side stuff.
Yep, which is fine. It's okay. I mean, it's good. Like I said, it's a good peek into like what this life is about for them and why they love it. What they chose, you know, when
it's like the most real episode I think so far. Like because the rest of it, I mean, it's like little things. This is like the big real event that happens with them so far.
And I think they may be starting to get comfortable with the camera.
Well, speaking of comfortable, I mean, were you surprised the camera crew was in the hospital with her for this? Like,
I'm sure it was like her choice. I mean, gosh, I hope
it had. Well, it had to have been her choice. But like, would you be okay with signing off in a camera?
No, but I'm not surprised that Christine was. I feel like she's like, let's put it all out there. You know, is kind of her MO, in a lot of ways. You know.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I was just surprised, you know, how much we got to see. It's not like, you know, you got a full shot or something of her giving birth. Like, it wasn't inappropriate for viewing or something, but it just, I don't know if I would be comfortable with that, like, myself. Like, I'd want that not for the American public to just...
I mean, it's our first birth on the TLC Sisterwives, but it won't be our last. We see
right.
And we see a lot of different kinds of methodologies, I don't know, circumstances over the years too. So I mean, this is maybe the most conventional.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll see.
Get into it. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, for the most part, we kind of just the first like real information we're getting is we're reflecting on Christine's last pregnancy. I think is kind of the first conversation we dive into with this episode.
Yeah, that Janelle says she was surprised Christine got pregnant again after having such a hard miscarriage a year prior.
Mm-hmm. It sounded like it was really traumatic and surprising since she apparently she says a number of times, and so does Janelle and the family, that like she's always had very easy like pregnancies and births, I guess. So
Yeah, I mean, they've all been home births that clearly there weren't complications prior to this at all. So.
mhm. They kind of talk about how it's a big week because Robyn's coming, the baby's coming, and then it's Mary's anniversary, and I'm just like, oh man, Mary, I wish you could have a little. I know these are big things that are happening. It's like not anybody's fault, but
But it's a milestone anniversary too. It's her
huge
20th, so it's like you would want that to be more like celebrated and stuff. But he's like, no, I'm got my fiance moving. I've got a baby that was delivered. You know,
yeah,
the 20th anniversary doesn't seem as big of a deal in like
yeah.
comparison.
I think it is a big part of the next episode. It seemed like coming up from the preview, but
I hope so. I hope I mean, I hope she gets her
spotlight a little bit.
time.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was sweet, and maybe like Christine's kind of olive branch that she's like leaning on Robyn to take care of the kids when she's in the hospital and like possibly getting ready to go give birth, because they're first just going ready to see if they should be induced. Basically, it seems like.
Hmm.
And she says, "I just want you to take to Robyn." They're kind of talking about it, like, "I just want you to take charge and like come on in and like just do it." And I thought that was, yeah, an olive branch maybe a little bit. I mean
I
that,
think so.
yeah,
And it was a big, I feel like it was a big step in showing like that she trusts Robyn with her kids, you know? So
yeah,
that's a big step in welcoming her officially more into the family. Like, yep, she's watching all the kids. She's taking on a role as another mom. I mean, it was integrating her more into the family, which was nice.
yeah. I thought so too. Robyn's emotions about her, like we've learned about how important family is to her, like so far, but it sort of again she tears up and she and
I had to laugh a little bit at that. I was like, oh, there it is.
like we're 5 minutes into this episode.
Right.
Um, but she talks about how her stepfather really became her, she says her daddy, which that word to me feels uncomfortable to say.
I,
But
there are different connotations with that word than maybe you intended, but
yeah, I mean, this was 2010. It was a simpler time. Maybe we weren't as like
maybe.
they're I don't know. She's a mom. I don't know. Whatever. It was sweet.
She can use it if she wants. It just,
She meant it that she meant it that it's like that's her dad. That's like
yeah.
she became his like
It's just always weird hearing an adult say that word, like,
it's a little
unless you're
cringy.
talking to a child.
It's a little cringy, but Robyn's a little cringy. She wears her emotions on her sleeve, I guess.
Yeah.
But it really like she puts a lot of stake. She puts all her cards on the table with like she wants this family to be everything for this her kids. That she wants this for her kids, I think, as much as she wants it for herself, and she wants to like give them such a better and like full family experience.
Yeah, and I think her then comparing it to her stepdad becoming her father, looking at Kody in that same way for her children, and we'll see obviously down the line that that's what it becomes. So I think she is really thinking in that respect of it.
Yeah, she's committed, and like that's what I kind of come back to again with the work with Robyn is like committed. She's very like convicted in her faith. She's very convicted in her belief of this family like structure and like cult. They use the word not yet, but we'll get to it. Family culture is like the phrase in this show and family for like how they talk about like is the family culture good or bad right now.
Mm-hmm.
She's like manning that ship of family culture. I think a lot of times and
Again, it's so odd it's drawn back again to like a corporation. Like, what is the work culture?
that's a good point.
It's just so funny that there's so many comparisons with work.
Married and mergers and acquisitions. She's kind of a
Yeah.
recruiter. Robyn's got like maybe our HR department. Like,
Right? Like, what's your company culture before I join?
mm-hmm. Yeah, but she's all in. She's just all in. Like you can just tell to this life, and she maintains that. I mean, that hasn't really wavered over the
No,
years.
I mean, that's been pretty consistent, even when things are hard and stuff. I mean, at least what she's still saying is the same thing as she's always been saying.
Yeah,
So,
for
I mean,
sure.
we don't know private feelings if they've changed at all, but what she's saying is consistent. So,
I mean, as much as Robyn's optimism or like energy can be hard to like take sometimes. Like someone's got to be doing it because as the years go on, like these wives have already been in these marriages for 20 for at least 20, or 2016 and 14 years or something. Like they do list in this episode how many years they've all been in the marriage, and like they're probably a little jaded. They're kind of like it's not. And she comes in and not only is she a breath of fresh air, like whatever, she's young and like cute, but she's also like newly invigorated to like put energy and like heart into this family culture.
And to remind them kind of why they wanted to do polygamy in the first place, like showing them, this is someone who's so passionate about it. Whereas if they have any moments of being like, I don't know, it's fine, I get it, just kind of getting complacent early. Like she's there being like, no, this is amazing. This is a great life. I'm choosing this.
Yeah.
And she's like the cheerleader at this point, but
Yes.
they kind of need that.
Yeah. As much as the viewer with all the information from all these years, it can be like eye roll sometimes.
Yeah, because she's got a little bit of a like Pollyanna kind of
Yeah.
vibe to her, where she's, just very optimistic and stuff. But again, like you have Janelle, who's more realistic, Christine, who's maybe a little more questioning at this point, and Mary a little bit in that role too. That if they're gonna move forward, they do kind of need that.
Yeah.
So
Someone's gotta cheer him on, I guess.
right, it's not exactly an easy role, but she's doing it. So
For sure. No, I commend you, Robyn. And if I don't want you to feel, I'm talking to you, Robyn. I don't want you to feel like I have anything but love for you again. Just to make that clear.
And just making this assumption that Robyn is listening to this episode.
We're manifesting. We'd
Yeah.
love it if you
She'll
listen.
hear it one day. We'll see.
Then let's see. I think next we talk about Mary's also Mary's miscarriage she had in recent time. And she's just so like her Mary of this season is so like I don't know if innocent's the word or just so like soft spoken and like
She's more reserved, I think.
it's almost she just seems meek. Like I think you used the word meek at one point or humbled. Like she just seems like I don't know. I think she rounds a corner pretty quickly where we see like an edgier Mary, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but just a little more like
raw, maybe.
yeah, even just a little more lighthearted. I just feel like this is her like very like still scoping out. Maybe that's what it is. She's still kind of sussing out the situation of.
Well, I think it's like before you really get to know somebody better. Like you're not showing all of yourself when you're initially getting to know people. Like you're not just like, okay, I'm all these crazy things and I'm gonna throw it in your face, and everyone would be like, well, that's too much. So she is maybe a little more like dipping your toe in kind of deal, and then you get to know her more as years go on. So maybe is that kind of feeling that it's weird because we're not used to seeing that in modern day episodes.
That's true. It's such a contrast to the Mary we now know, and that might be just all it is too. She's just still getting comfortable with us as like an audience and stuff. I guess
I feel like Robyn is very, very like she is today, and Janelle is very like she is today. Mary and Christine have both changed a lot in the next 10, 12 years.
Yeah, for sure. They've grown. I don't want to say hardened, but just like not hard. It's more of like it is what it, like I'm just gonna tell you, put it out there. It is what it is. Like
I think it's confidence, really.
Yeah, that's true too. I
think it's just being more sure of themselves that they weren't at this time of filming and this time in their lives. I think that's maybe the difference.
Well, we'll see. We'll see the evolution's like kind of fascinating, I think, but
it's a great character study, honestly.
For sure. But yeah, she says Mary says she always thought she wanted 8 kids, and she says how it was such a wonderful surprise. And this is the part that like my heart cracked a little bit when she's like, it was a wonderful surprise, and then I miscarried. So it's like after she tried for Mariah for 5 years, and Mariah would have been like I don't know 10 at that point, 11.
Right.
So it's like, oh, another 10 years go by and she has this surprise. And I'm just like, oh, the heartbreak of like losing that baby too.
And that's such a long time to try. Like, I know of friends and stuff who've tried for like 2 years, and that is long time to just keep going without it, and then 5 years just to get pregnant once. And I mean, thank God, she had a healthy pregnancy and a healthy baby and everything. But
Mm-hmm.
God, I mean, that's heartbreaking if that's something that you really want in your life and it's not, for whatever reason, possible for you biologically.
Yeah, it was hard to feel for it. I felt for her, and I mean, I can't personally relate to that at all, but I could, you could see her like feel her emotions, as much as she was trying to just be factual. I think it was like under the surface of like the pain of that circumstance. I mean, jumping ahead to like current day, and again, if like you don't want to hear about current day Brown
So
family,
we
like
had like 30 seconds.
really quick. I'm like quick. Like, would she feel the need to stay if she had this big family of her own?
That is a good point,
Yeah,
because now that Mariah's grown and it's kind of an empty nest syndrome, that is a good point, that she's more alone if she leaves.
I mean, we get into it in this episode. Like, these are all her kids. Like, she says she always thought she'd have a big family, but like, but this she went about it a different way, basically. Okay, getting back into this mode. Um, then we're in the car driving to the hospital with Christine and Kody. They're really obsessing over the date.
It's the 13th of the month.
Yeah, there's Cody's like, well, we can't have her today, or what if her birthday is on Friday the 13th? And it's like, what if?
So I looked up, because I was just like, is Friday the 13th? I like, everyone's heard the superstition and stuff of the 13th, and like, in hotels and stuff, they skip the 13th floor or whatever. And I was like, how did this start? So I looked it up and Googled it, and apparently it's because Judas had betrayed Jesus and that he was one of 13. There was 12 disciples and Jesus made 13. And so that's like what a lot of people say it originates from.
It feels like a real stretch.
I felt like it was kind of a stretch too, because I was like, well, I mean, but there were 12. It just felt like weird to connect that. But that was the first thing that came up on Google of why 13 is an unlucky number.
So Jesus was his own disciple, is what we're saying.
Yeah,
by
that Judas
logic?
betrayed the group of 13 that they had.
But is that unlucky? Is that like that was a? I don't know. Okay, we won't get into that. But like
That's a
like
whole other conversation we could have. But
all the things we could pull from to like select an unlucky number. I guess
didn't that feel a little weird? I mean,
it's new information to me. So
new to
thank
me
you for
too,
sharing.
and I didn't know if that was anything with Mormonism or any. I don't know if that's anything they take into consideration or not, but that was just what Google said. So,
Well, it must not be a real Mormon conviction because we quickly change our mind that it's a great idea to have a baby on the 13th
exactly.
because it was a brown child, like brown family kid.
Yes, Cody's 13th child being born on the 13th of the month, and all of a sudden they're like, "Let's do it. This is amazing."
It went from unlucky to like the best idea ever, and we have to, in fact, push to have the baby in the next few hours
Right.
to make sure she's born on the 13th.
Yes, because now it's like midday, I'm assuming, and like you got to induce her still, and she's actually got to give birth, so you got to make sure it happens before the 13th is over.
Yeah. Do we know what month this is in?
Oh, what month was truly? I had it. Remember that sheet
did?
I sent you? Let me look it up here quick.
So Sam's mom, a number one shout out to Sam's mom.
Our biggest listener so far, I think.
Most loyal follower.
Mm-hmm.
Printed out an informational sheet for Sam about all the family members.
She did. So she printed off a whole sheet of all the birthdays of all the Brown kids. And we didn't know if that was like a hint that maybe we need to be more organized, or if she was just so she started watching and she didn't know what episode we were on this week. So she just binge watched like the whole season, and then she keeps trying to talk to me about it, and I'm like, "Mom, would you just I haven't watched those episodes yet for the rewatch, so could you just like wait to discuss this with me until I watch it for the podcast?" But truly, okay, April 13th, 2010.
This was in April.
Shout out. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Mom. This was you.
Al, you share a birthday with Truly Brown.
Aw.
He says nice.
Now you're going to remember it, too.
Never forget. No, I didn't eat yet. No, I didn't eat yet. I didn't have time.
Does he want to do a shout out on the podcast?
He's suppressed that. Just save a pork chop for me, please. Yeah, I will. Okay, he's good.
Haley's husband making his podcast debut, kind of.
Kind of. Maybe.
Eventually.
Yeah. Not today.
Well,
Not
and
today.
today we
Maybe
got to see my cat Kevin on the podcast, too. He already ran off, but, I mean, we got some introductions here. So
Okay. So we arrive at the hospital, which is kind of interesting. Christine seems very amused by the hospital because it's her first time giving birth in a hospital, and I'm assuming that means she probably hasn't had a lot of like otherwise hospital visits either. Like if she's never had a major.
Yeah, I'm like, how much visiting then are you doing, like, for prenatal checkups and stuff? Is that
Good point.
You know,
she must. Well, they use like a midwife. Like I wonder
if maybe they do that at home, like the midwife comes over and does a checkup kind of deal.
Great question because I don't know the answer to that, but she seems very like it's all very novel to her. It seems like in her like interest and like.
And she's liking it. I mean, she's like, my experience is great so far. And I thought it was funny too that she like so she's never had an epidural, which, ouch. Good for you, Christine. What a warrior. But after the doctor goes, I think she'll enjoy it.
Yeah. The doctor was a bit of a card.
He went, because they were like, oh, is our 13th baby on the 13th? We want to induce. He goes, okay, I'm cool with it. Cool enthusiasm, doctor. Thank you.
She says she's going to treat herself to the anesthetic this time, get the epidural. It's her 6th baby, I believe. So she's going to really go all out for herself.
Good for her. I mean,
I'm sure it seemed
earlier. Like, my God, that's already hard enough.
I'm sure it seemed like a dream because she's done it 5 times in a whole other way that was a lot more painful, I could imagine.
I assume it was.
She's got rave reviews for the epidural in the hospital.
I thought it was interesting them talking about, though, their reasoning in polygamy culture for home births, which I hadn't really given a whole lot of thought, because later we'll see some home births, and I just thought it was like personal preference, whatever. Yeah. But saying because it was originally like to protect the polygamous fathers really from outing themselves as polygamists and then getting, arrested or anything like that for coming out of the hospital with multiple wives. And so.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I didn't give them enough credit for like because to me, like, again, I have no kids. I can't. All births are miraculous, right. But I just kind of have a little bit of like a preconceived notion about like the attitude of like someone who refuses to go to the hospital to give birth, that it's like the vibe seems like it's like this is the natural best way to do it. Like that's kind of like, you know what I mean? But that's kind of the like vibe that in like media I feel like is the thing of like a little bit of a superiority thing. Not again,
everybody make your own choice, but that is the vibe that's put out there.
They have a cultural like necessity for home birth, and I thought that was interesting and like makes a lot of sense why they lean in that direction when they can, because that's probably how all of their ancestors have been born, and they themselves. So like, of course they would be, and they're very comfortable with the idea of it because like they've seen probably dozens of children born at home in their life.
I mean, that honestly is something to kind of marvel at, though, that this is the first of Kody's 13 kids that has been born in a hospital. I mean, that's amazingly lucky, I think, to have 12 children prior to this, not needing to be in a hospital, not like having healthy pregnancies and like low risk and everything. That's very lucky. My goodness.
Yeah, it is interesting. And we do, like you said, we do eventually see some home births from different family members and stuff too. But yeah, Christine just rave reviews. She goes, "This was easy," just can't get over how, quick and painless it was.
Honestly, I was very happy for choosing to do that, and that she had a good experience and everything. Like,
Yeah.
Good. That's exactly what it should be.
Happy for you.
So they decide to induce labor, and
Okay, that's
Aspen wants to be there for
mhm.
it. So Kody's gonna go and get Aspen, and he's gonna go get like Christine's overnight bag and stuff like that. I mean, just go and grab everything because they decide they're actually gonna do it that day.
Mhm.
And then he goes home. He goes over to Robyn's house and is like filling her in and stuff. And then there's the whole I don't want to be kissing my girlfriend while my wife's in labor. And yet he does kiss her.
He tries to like sneak away from the cameraman. But it's
hmm
like you could have like maybe not. You know what I mean? Like it just
I feel like, was it super necessary?
I mean it's fine. Whatever. That's more
I
like
mean, like, I get it, but I also, like, didn't love it for Christine.
didn't love it for Christine, didn't love it for like TV.
Yeah.
Like but he did I mean, at least he tried to sneak away and just do a quick peck or whatever, but whatever it was. But it was like but then again I'm like this is their lifestyle. Like that's like a tagline of polygamy. Like I don't want to be because they have a lot of kids and they have a lot of wives. So he's like I don't want to be kissing my girlfriend while my wife's giving birth. Like you gonna put
I
this
was just wondering, though, I was like, I guess so they just sort of said, like, fuck it to the whole kissing before marriage thing. Like, it was, like, a huge deal that we talked about last time with him kissing Robyn when they got engaged, but then now, I mean, they're just sort of casually kissing. I guess
well
we're just like,
kids in
whatever. We already kissed once. It's done. So whatever.
um the other kind of funny I guess as we're like kind of sitting in the hospital Christine's been induced which also from what I've heard and being induced is very painful so I was kind of
I've
surprised
heard that
I
too.
didn't hear anything about that like maybe for her it wasn't for whatever not an expert on childbirth I've never had a child and I didn't do any research about it but but I've heard it's very painful so I was kind of
Mm.
like oh she didn't seem to be in pain and um we're acting like
Maybe it's literally the like drugs they have around, that she's like, I'm not used to this. This is amazing. This is easy. Whatever.
maybe by comparison it was like not
Yeah, that she's like, it's nothing.
yeah, it also seemed pretty quick because I've heard of people being induced for like many hours. So maybe
Yeah, then I mean they get induced and it's like essentially just triggering labor, but that you still could have a 24-hour labor or something. It doesn't mean it's immediately gonna happen.
yeah. So I was
But
curious about that. We didn't see any indication that that was difficult. But anyways, we're in the hospital bed. Christine's been induced. We're kind of just waiting, it seems. And Cody's like, "Hey, you got any recommendations for a fertility doctor?" And I'm like, "Code, man, not the time."
that was I was kind of secondhand embarrassed because literally though here's another thing where he's very like a dad. I was like, my dad would do the same shit.
Okay.
Like where he'd ask not obviously with polygamy, but he would be like, here's not an opportune time to discuss this. Let's discuss it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's so awkward and so inappropriate. And the doctor was very weirded out where he was like, yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, what?
Like, yeah, he was kind of like trying to clue him in, like, maybe we should talk about this right now. Like,
Maybe, with your wife right here in labor, we just talk about that and we
and they laugh it
circle
off.
back.
Yeah, they laugh it off, and Cody's like, "That's the business I'm in, is having kids." And it's like, ain't that the truth, buddy? Like that is your whole deal, is reproduction. Um, but yeah, I mean, and then he kind of also to like really put insult to injury to Mary, I would say he's because I got a wife that only has one, and it's
Yeah.
like, oof.
God forbid she only have one kid.
I mean, like I mean, we know she wanted more, so like fair, but just the way and Cody is not one to like speak eloquently. He never is. Like he's known for putting his foot in his mouth, so I'm sure he meant nothing by that. It's not like he was like this
Like
bitch.
meaning it maliciously, but like, and again, we'll see down the road that like Mary's ability or that she only has one child is something that she feels I don't know if it's like
Yeah.
shame maybe a little bit like she's kind of failed, which is I mean we'll get to that kind of conversation eventually more down the road, but it's just it's a real soft spot, like it's sensitive, so
Yeah. Yeah. When we go on like a journey of like ups and downs about it and like how she feels and they're kind of trying to figure out where they land on it like going forward. But yeah, it was just like I'm glad we acknowledged that was kind of awkward.
I'm glad the doctor even said it. Like, guy, might want to rethink that question. Let's just pretend you didn't ask it.
Yeah, I mean, we aired it on TV, so. That jumped ahead a little bit because the one thing I did want to come back to is Robyn's dollhouse.
Very interested to hear your thoughts.
I thought it was okay. First reaction to like the concept of the dollhouse that her dad built her, which I also now knowing probably her stepdad, who she loves dearly, that she felt like was her. There's probably a special connection knowing that like he didn't have to take her on as his blah blah blah. She has a very sweet emotional connection to her dad.
Mm-hmm.
Who I think was her, actually technically her stepfather. Very sweet. Then we get out the Barbies, and so it's not like a dollhouse, like an intricate Victorian little dollhouse with little things. It's like kind of a big thing with Barbies that we have a Barbie to represent each mom, and we have each of the girls. This is Janelle, and this is Robyn, this is my mommy, because it's Brianna, I think, that says that. And then we get the Kody doll, which is like a Ken doll with like shoulder length hair, which is like, I guess the hair length of his hair was like Kody, but it was like dark brown Ken doll hair.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it was. So I went on like a bit of a thought journey with that, because my first reaction was like, okay, kind of weird, but then I'm like, representation. You know what I mean? If we're having this conversation in 2022, we would say like we need to have dolls that represent everybody and like all the colors and all the abilities and all the body types and like lifestyles and like romantic relationships. So I was like, these dolls give the girls some piece of like not media but like something to represent their life. And I was like, okay, that's like important and sweet. And then Robyn even says, and we only have one Kody doll, one daddy doll. And I told the girls, it's like, how daddy only has 4 wives and he needs to take turns. Like, you need to take turns because they all fight over the Kody doll. We need to take turns with the Kody doll, just like the mommies. And I'm like, this is like, for some reason, so weird. Maybe because it's Barbies. Like, these Barbies that are like in a Ken that are supposed to be like their family, which is just bizarre. They picked out, and they had like features similar. Like the Robyn doll had like thick dark
brown hair,
and like the Janelle doll had blonde. And I just was like, something about this is so strange. But if I like remove myself from like my judgment, I guess, of their lifestyle, I'm like, representation matters. Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, like they just want to play what they know. See, I love that because so for context, like Haley texted me this at work and was like, I have so many thoughts about the dollhouse. And what I wrote in my notes, so I'm glad you had much more eloquent thoughts than I did, because I wrote 4 mommy dolls, 1 daddy doll, LOL.
I mean,
that's all I wrote.
It's weird. I don't think I ever had dolls to like look like my family. Like, I don't think as a family I came from the traditional 1 mom, 1 dad, 1 sibling household. I didn't have a Gary doll and a Denise doll and a Nikki sister doll. Like, so that seems weird, but I guess it makes sense that little girls would. And I don't know what it was. I was like, maybe it's because we assigned the names of the parents to these dolls that made it seem more weird. Because we could have just had 4 Barbies and a Ken and been like, we're playing a different family.
Which is what I tended to do with my Barbies. I mean, I played my own like characters, so to speak. It wasn't my own family I was playing with.
Yeah, I decided probably the like socially correct answer is like, they can have dolls that represent their family too.
Right.
And if it's,
you know what? Okay, what's the company that makes Barbies?
Mattel needs to start making polygamy Barbies.
Would you get on it? We need to represent this family, for God's sake.
A box set of 5 dolls that are 4 Barbies and a Ken.
Yep.
And extension packs of like kids.
Of babies.
Of babies.
So also, if Mattel wants to like sponsor us for an ad too,
I would do it even if it's not a polygamy Barbie.
I would too, just for the hell of it, because that'd be kind of fun. We have commercials at the moment, but if Mattel wants us to film an ad for them.
I'm having HelloFresh for dinner. If HelloFresh, I know you're a sponsor of
HelloFresh. Yep, here's another shout out there.
Here's a sample of what that ad would be like. I'm having bulgogi pork something for dinner.
Sounds great.
Yeah,
Sounds excellent.
this is
Let's
something
talk about it.
I highly recommend if I'm being paid to. Um, and Aspen has, I think our first kid confessional is Aspen on the couch, just talking about what it was
I
like
think
to
so.
be in the room with her mom when she was giving birth, which was
And I wrote, I was like, you can't unsee that, but whatever.
so. If she's had all these home births before, and Aspen's her oldest, I have to imagine she's seen some stuff, right?
You kind of think, well, because she makes the comment, she's like, I think 15's old enough to see your mom give birth. So I'm like, so have you not really then? I guess
It's
you.
true. So when I was in middle school, they showed us the video of a birth from like crash view. You know what I mean? And like that image, it's just like I know that the concept of birth is beautiful, and I get it.
Yep.
It's also so gross and so graphic and so like violent looking.
Mm-hmm.
If you're getting at if you're looking at like in the eye,
Yep.
and I'm sorry if this makes me a prude. I just don't. I would never want to watch someone else
Mm-mm.
from up by the shoulders. Great.
I would be there to coach them by the shoulders. I
Yes.
don't want to be down below.
No.
But yeah, we do see though that she likes the epidural. She's a fan.
I'm a big fan of the epidural. 2 thumbs up for the epidural. She can't
Right?
stop saying how easy it was, and I'm like, and that makes me think like, because I've always thought, because I'm a person who's like, I want to do the right thing, whatever the right thing is, and so like someday I like hope to have kids, and I'm like, is the right thing to not have drugs and blah blah blah. And as Christine's co-signing, I'm like, no, this is great. Everybody should do this. I'm like, that's all I need to hear.
Yep.
Thank you, Christine. That is.
Say no more, Christine. I got it.
It's not a right. I'm not saying
Girl, it
it's
is.
a right thing at all. I'm just saying it's not a wrong thing. And Christine made me convinced that I will certainly be in a hospital with drugs.
Yep.
That's where I.
Modern day, if they're there, do it because it's already enough. You've already spent 9 months in a pregnancy. You're already doing more than your partner is physically. You're incredible. You're doing all this. You've been doing it for almost a year at this point. You do whatever you need to do on birthday. No judgment.
Huh?
And it seemed like it did. I know there's editing and stuff, but it seemed like it went pretty smoothly.
I mean, they're driving to the hospital during daylight, and they apparently have her the same day. So like, it wasn't that long.
At like 8:30 at night.
Right, and then we see the Browns descend upon the hospital in a pack to go meet baby Truly. Like
I was like, well, this looks like a field trip to the hospital. Come on, class.
That's an excellent observation. I think everything in the early days for that every activity they go to as a family looks like a field trip probably.
Like, can you imagine being like the staff at like the entry and you're like, the hell is this?
Well, that's why I'm wondering, like in Utah, if it's like something they're like, and when the polygamists come in, you just call for backup, just get another person on the register or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like they're coming.
Like it's something they have like in their training of like. And
right. I feel like they must maybe like you'd almost have to.
That was very funny. The kids all are so excited to meet baby. We're seeing like a million pictures taken, and Truly's just getting, as a hours old baby, just getting passed around from like kid to kid to kid.
Which I know, like the baby's not gonna break. Okay, like she's more sturdy, and that's what they always say about her. But like they're newborns, that they're more sturdy than you think.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm like gentle, please, careful. Like
as we're like selfieing with her, like with this,
like she's brand new.
Yeah, she's sturdy though. She looks like a big baby. I don't know if they gave the weight, birth weight, and everything, but she looks.
I don't know that they did, but and like I was texting you too, watching this, where I'm like, you can tell that's Truly right away.
Mm-hmm.
You look at her face, and you're like, I could identify that baby as Truly, hands down. I mean, they're all so happy, like they're they're tears of joy and stuff. It's very heartwarming, and so you can see though, putting yourself in say Mary's shoes, where you're like, this is a really joyful moment in life, and that it wouldn't, again, like you're saying, like it wouldn't be possible without this lifestyle for her. So
and she's gotten to experience this. she'll experience this like 18 times, which just occurred to me. Like she's gonna get to see this birthday of all. She's there for all of them. Every one of the kids that's born, and she's part of it. And like, not many people that aren't labor and delivery doctors and nurses can say that they've seen that many births and like been there for that many like little babies.
Well, I mean, you think about asking, people who are parents or people who are older and who have had their children or grandchildren or whatever, and like you'll ask, "What's the happiest day of your life?" It's almost always overwhelming. Oh, the day my children were born.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, to have that time and time and time again for Mary with how many children, that's a lot of joyful days. Like,
Yeah. And Janelle says too, it's she's like, I don't look at them as not my kids or whatever. I look at them as kind of all my children, so it seems like they're all mine, but I don't have to do all the work. And it's like,
yeah.
it's sweet that they have like I can't really grasp that deep of a connection that they have to all of these kids that are born to other people. Like I guess I always thought of it as like an aunt situation,
That's how I think of it too.
but they clearly have a different, like they're all the moms.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean that kind of. I mean, is there anything about the episode you had left?
That was about all I had. I mean, my last note really was like, I just was glad they all got to go in the hospital and see, together that they were all able to go see new baby Truly and be a
Yeah,
family.
and that's such a, it just occurred to me too, such a pre-COVID thing. Like you could never descend upon the hospital with 20 people,
Yeah.
12 kids. You know what I mean? Not ever.
Yeah, watching that now definitely was more significant than
Hmm.
pre-COVID for sure.
Right. It was interesting. I guess
So
this, um, I guess if we're gonna sort of segue into like current things, or, I mean, I'm assuming everybody is like aware of like the current status of the family and
again, our friends watching, tune out now if you want.
the end of the road.
Thanks, guys. Bye bye.
I mean, if it's that precious too. But
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to, spoiler.
so we're kind of like we're about to watch the last confession or tell all of season 16
Mm-hmm.
of Sister Wives, and I noticed a lot of the feedback after episode 1 of the tell all and the kind of the end of the season is people were really on the fan pages criticizing Mary, like, why don't you leave? She's pathetic. These are not my words at all. These are not my words. The people say that they feel like she's got Stockholm syndrome, or she's like so insecure she couldn't leave, or she's pathetic. All these terrible like insults to her for sticking around. That is not the impression I got. First of all, I think she's like making a conscious choice to want to. This is her family.
I agree.
Loves them all very dearly, and she loves Kody, but like mainly she loves all the kids and there's 20 people that she's like very close to. She's not gonna just walk away from.
That's not an easy thing. I mean, it's not just divorcing yourself from a partner, it's divorcing yourself from dozens of people, and that's not easily just done at the drop of a hat.
And we saw in this episode how important that big family was to her and how much she wanted it so badly. And it's like this is it for her. This is what she always wanted. I mean, her relationship with her husband probably isn't what she always wanted, but like the rest of it's there. She's got a great business. She's got this great family with amazing kids and these sister wives and everybody that she gets to be involved. It's a community in itself, the family. Like it's like an extended. It's almost like all of your siblings and extended and more than that even for a lot of people. So, anyways, because people were firing off a lot of criticism at Mary about like her choice to stay, even though her relationship isn't great, even though Kody hasn't been good to her. Like to be just put it bluntly, he just hasn't been good to her and hasn't been trying, pretty openly. And I don't know if it's a long post. She posted on Instagram following the first tell all. I guess I'll just read it. I don't know.
Yeah, read it.
A few months ago, this is Mary's post for following the tell all. A few months ago, I used the word estranged regarding my relationship in a conversation with a friend. It was the first time I had vocalized it, and it felt honest. It was hard to use and yet somewhat freeing. I know where my relationship is. It's not obvious. I'm not oblivious to that. I will always look for the best in people and situations and hope they see it too. I want to protect people, their emotions, the tough situations. I've never been, nor will I ever be the person who will sit and publicly trash someone or something. So if you start reading this and think that's what you're about to get here, you'll be disappointed. I try not to put labels on things, but over the past few months, as quote that certain TV show has been airing, I've been labeled. I've been called by viewers desperate, pathetic, embarrassing. I've told I have no worth and no value, and the plethora of other things that I won't even mention here. In actuality, what you've seen is me no longer being silent. What you've seen is me using my voice to have fun and bring humor to a not so perfect situation. The truth is, I know my value, I know my worth, who I am, what I want in life, what I aspire to be, and what I feel I'm doing is a pretty dang good job at is being happy. I don't let things around me that, quote, aren't perfect get me down because my inner peace and joy is more important to me than that. I surround myself with people who match or exceed my energy. I have friends, coworkers, colleagues, mentors who fill my cup, and I hope in some way I'm filling theirs. I engage in positive conversations, situations. I dream with the lid off, all caps. I have plans and goals and aspirations that make me happy and fulfilled. I work toward those dreams daily. I overcome, I succeed, I win, and I'm happy with myself. So, like, that's like even more lovely written when I say it out loud. I just like the like power behind it kind of like speaks to me even more. But for those who just see her like kind of sarcastic, kind of like laugh it off comments, a little bit self-deprecating comments about like, yeah, well, I would love it if Kody came over. She makes those kind of statements here and there, and it's like people take that as like what she even says desperation, but it's her just like, yeah, that'd be nice, but like tough, and I've got my own stuff
Not
going
happening, but
family, and I'm doing. She's very successful in her business, like that element of her life isn't perfect right now, but not she's not like wallowing. She's doing just good, just fine. And clearly this family brings so much to her with or without.
at the end of the day, it's her life to live and not ours. I mean, we can all have our opinions about it, and I mean, I'm, I'm sure everybody watching does. You have some sort of opinion on it, but it's her life, and if she says that as it is, yeah, it's imperfect, but I am happy and I do like who I am. Well, I'm like, great.
I mean, who has a life where every element of it is perfect? Like, you know what I mean? If she's
Not possible.
succeeding in her friendships and her business and her relationship with all the kids and the other wives and like I'm sure if she's really happy in those other ways, the fact that her and Kody's relationship isn't great is like kind of a afterthought. Like, yeah, that's unfortunate that that's not how I'd love it to be, but everything else is going really well, and I'm choosing to be a part of this family. And no, you're not going to push me out of it. Like in other times in her life, I think that a lot of things were going wrong for her. Like choosing a low point at different points, and so then I'm sure it magnified all of the issues, including the relationship. But like, if she's so busy being happy and she's always traveling, she's with people that she loves and friends and family. It's like I'm sure like she longs for something a better relationship with Kody. I'm sure she's not spending a ton of time dwelling on that. So I just thought I don't know. I thought the fact that she really emphasizes how much she wanted that big family in this episode. Um, and she got it like one way or another. I mean, Mariah's a great person and she's close to her and loves her deeply, but like she loves all these kids deeply and she gets to be part of their lives, which wouldn't be a thing if she hadn't chosen polygamy and hadn't chosen each of the three wives that came after. Um, Segue to a much lighter recent social media post. Christine's only boy, I believe, right? Peyton.
It is her only boy, yeah.
Yeah, he's got all these girls and just Peyton. Luckily, he's got all his brothers in addition. But Peyton's got a TikTok. He's pretty funny and like posts a fair amount on it. Peyton Brown on TikTok if you're curious about seeing him. If you've been watching the latest season, if you've been watching the tell-all, we have a real iconic Christine looking down the gun of the camera and just being like, "What does the nanny do?" Because Robyn has a nanny. It's COVID times. There's a lot of like politics about like the family getting together and the rules they have to follow to do so. and we're kind of like the theme of the season almost is like, what's the nanny doing to get her access to this house that like Mary can't go see the kids and we can't all get together as family, right? That's kind of like the thread through the season. It seems like in the tell-all we get every teaser of Christine saying, "What does the nanny do?" Because she's obviously fed up with the division and the rules and you know. So Peyton has a TikTok of him wearing a shirt. He's like not really acknowledging the shirt, but it says what period does period the period nanny period do period, and you know is very funny. He's just saying, I just got a package in the mail, and he's like
casual to the crust.
And it's funny, and I'd love to know what maybe Peyton would talk to us. He's
again open invitation, Peyton.
Anybody
Shouting into the void, but eventually maybe someone from the Brown family will hear it.
I'd love to. I love to hear his thoughts on that situation because it seemed like he was just laughing, but I wonder because I just wonder about their opinion of the situation. Like his mom left the family, and like obviously
how close are they still with everybody? And
I think all the kids are still. I mean, Hunter. I don't know. They seem to still.
I think the adult kids are going to be as close as they're going to be, regardless of
Yeah.
their parents.
Yep.
But it's how close they're going to be with like
The
Robyn
second
and Kody.
generation of
You
kids.
know, I think that's the real question.
Sure. Time shall tell, and thank the heavens, Peyton is also an excellent resource because he informed us that we will be getting another season, or at least they're filming, so we'll get something.
Well, we'll get something, so thank goodness.
So we'll see what happens. This will be an interesting like next phase of the family to see what a divided family looks. Not divided, I shouldn't say divided family, but what a like a broken. I mean, we'll call it a broken family looks like.
Essentially broken, yeah.
I guess that's all. Did you have anything else you wanted to?
I think that's all. I mean, because next week we'll probably talk about we'll talk about the next episode, but then we'll have seen the final tell-all too. So.
Ooh, can't wait. Well, if you would love to follow us on Instagram at polygamistpod, if you want to email us at polygamistpod@gmail.com. YouTube, polygamistpod. Comment and review and subscribe and follow and whatever all the things are for each platform. Please feel free to do that. And thanks for if you made it this far. Thank you so much. Congratulations to us for holding an audience for that long.
Right? 4 episodes in, girl.
Jerry, hey, this officially to the viewer, this means we've made it past like what percent of podcasts? Like 80% or something like that?
I think it was like 80 to 90% of podcasts.
Don't make it past 3 episodes.
Nailed it.
Or something. So we did that.
So
high five. So thanks for if you followed along to that point, and we'll see you next week.